Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Israel has carried out dozens of airstrikes on the Gaza Strip after Palestinian militants fired rockets at southern Israeli cities in some of the heaviest fighting since the military action began a week ago. Israel said it hit facilities belonging to the militant group Hamas and several commanders' homes, but main roads and power lines were also damaged. There were no immediate reports of casualties following the strikes. The Israeli military said more than 50 warplanes conducted a 20-minute attack on the Gaza Strip shortly before dawn. They struck what they described as 35 terror targets and destroyed more than 15 kilometers of an underground tunnel network belonging to Hamas. The military also said it had hit the homes of 9 high-ranking Hamas commanders. COVAX, the international scheme to ensure equal access to COVID-19 vaccines, is 140 million doses short because of India's continuing COVID crisis. The Serum Institute of India, the largest single supplier to the COVAX scheme, has made none of its planned shipments since exports from the country were suspended in March. The UN Children's Agency, UNICEF, buys and distributes vaccines for COVAX, and it is urging leaders of the G7 nations and EU states to share their doses. UNICEF says this group could donate around 153 million doses, while still vaccinating their own populations. Thailand has seen its highest number of daily COVID cases, with the majority of the new infections stemming from the country's overcrowded prisons. Almost 7,000 prisoners make up for more than 9,500 of Monday's new cases, more than double the previous daily record. Thailand admitted there were growing clusters in jails after several prominent activists tested positive. The country has managed to keep coronavirus numbers low for the last year, but saw a huge spike last month. A total of more than 1,100 cases have been reported since the beginning of the pandemic. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has said that he will not allow the delayed general election to be used to fulfill what he calls the interest of outside forces. Mr. Abiy said that the election will be decided by Ethiopia and Ethiopians only, not to fulfill the interest of external forces. The Prime Minister accused unnamed countries of waging a campaign against Ethiopia. His government has come under pressure from the US and European Union over alleged human rights abuses and the humanitarian crisis in the northern Tigray region. The corruption trial of South Africa's former president Jacob Zuma has been pushed to May the 26th, where a formal plea will be entered. Mr. Zuma is expected to plead not guilty. His supporters gathered outside the High Court ahead of his appearance. The former president faces 16 counts of corruption relating to a multi-billion-dollar arms deal. A total of 217 witnesses are expected to testify against him. The case centres on an arms deal with French arms company Thales that was meant to modernise South Africa's defence in the late 90s. Both Mr. Zuma and the company have denied any wrongdoing. Long working hours are killing hundreds of thousands of people a year, that's according to the World Health Organization. The first global study of its kind showed 745,000 people died in 2016 from stroke and heart diseases due to long hours. The research found that working 55 hours or more a week was associated with a 35% higher risk of a stroke and a 17% higher risk of dying from heart disease compared with a working week of 35 to 40 hours. The report found that people living in Southeast Asia and Western Pacific region were the most affected. Incredible new drone footage has been released showing the scene of a derailed train in Iowa in the US. Video from above shows train carriages strewn around the track with some parts still on fire. According to the local fire chief, the train was carrying fertilizer and ammonium. 80 people were evacuated, as well as people within an area of 5 miles around the scene. Union Pacific, the company owner of the train, said in a statement there were no injuries to the crew. And finally, a zoo in the Peruvian capital Lima has shown off 2 endangered baby American crocodiles to the public who were born at the zoo through artificial insemination. Keepers at the Huachipa Zoo say the 2 crocodiles, which are 3 months and 10 days old and now measure 26 centimeters in length, are doing well. The crocodile eggs were incubated for 90 days and were the only surviving 2 out of a total of 24 eggs. It is still too early to determine the sex of the 2 newborns. Numbers of crocodiles in Peru and Ecuador are low, making events like this a conservation success story. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.